Hey guys, and welcome to another Factorio Friday Facts discussion. I'm Exterminator, and thank you for joining me. So this one is pretty much another combat-related discussion, Combat Revisit 2. And they talk about some balancing here, some changes, some tweaks, and then something particularly interesting down at the bottom, which of course we'll get to last, but that one, the thing down there I'm quite excited about. So Twinson here, in the last Friday Facts, or not the last, like two ago, they want to do some combat rebalancing, but they mentioned they don't want to bring the hopes of everyone up too much because this doesn't mean a combat overhaul. Essentially they're just saying they just are going to do some tweaks to like weapons and stuff. So unfortunately it's not going to be like an overhaul. They're not adding new enemies, they're not adding new weapons, I don't think. It doesn't mention here, but previously I have seen a mention here and there about a potential artillery thing, but I don't know what the plans are for that exactly. So he says, they say, you know, as I was doing the combat rebalance, it was clear, you know, everyone has their different perspectives and opinions on how combat should work, and they try to objectively evaluate combat using the following methodology. So what they did is he split the game into 7 sections based on research progress. So each section has the evolution factor I tested fighters will approximately have in an average game. So initially, 0 evolution, red as in red science, 0.1 evolution, red and green, 0.3. You can read this 0.4, 0.7, 0.9, and 0.99, finally at the very end with red, green, blue, military, high-tech, and production, which are the new research categories, by the way. So for each section, he tested both the offense combat and defense combat using all the different guns and turrets and stuff and tweaked numbers accordingly. And kind of like while doing this, kept in mind that fun always wins, so essentially what they're saying is they would prefer the changes to make it more fun than to necessarily be balanced. So that is something to keep in mind once we do actually see these changes, is that they came into this with the mindset of trying to make it fun rather than perfectly balanced, just because, you know, there's going to be people who want it balanced, but that may not be the case. And, you know, I think that's okay. I mean, having it be fun is definitely a huge factor, in my opinion at least. New weapons should be slightly more powerful than old weapons, so, you know, to incentivize you to experiment. So near the in-game rocket launcher will be better than the machine gun, which makes sense. I mean, you know, that's pretty realistic, I would say. And then destroying biter bases hard in the beginning and slightly easier towards the end game to get the sense of combat power progression, which is pretty much how it is already. I mean, that pretty much is how it is. The biter bases themselves are quite easy to kill late game. It's really like the behemoths and stuff that still kind of give you a little bit of trouble here and there, but and then defending is not too hard in the beginning, and you know, because they don't want to put a new player in the situation of you didn't prepare properly, so you get attacked and you're dead, you have to start over. They don't want that, but then it gets hard as you progress through. So down to the changes. So far the changelog looks like this. There are many numbers that were tweaked and not included in this list, but this list is still quite extensive, so I'm not going to necessarily read every single one. I'm going to try to summarize, and you guys should be able to read this too. I'll just leave the page here while I do this, but the changes are that the player regains health at a much higher rate only after being out of combat for 10 seconds. So as it is now, you regenerate health fairly slowly, but they're changing it so you regain health much quicker, but you have to be out of combat for 10 seconds, which seems reasonable. A lot of combat-based stuff in games seems to work that way, where if you're out of combat for a certain amount of time, you regain health and stuff. The discharge defense has been buffed, because it now pushes back, stuns, and damages nearby enemies when activated by the remote. There's no numbers in terms of damage or stun duration or pushback distance or anything, but that is more than it does now. And they've also decreased the size of it in your power armor from 3 to 3 to 2 to 2, which is also good. They also really buffed the personal laser defense, greatly increased the damage, which is good. I think because if it had more damage, I would definitely probably use a personal laser defense. I think it's a cool idea, but as it is now, it just doesn't. It just sucks. I mean, let's just be straight here. It's not good as it is now. So I'm glad they buffed the damage. They have nerfed the flamethrower. Flamethrower gun has a minimum range of 3. So essentially, what this means is that you can no longer shoot it directly at your feet like you can now, which is a nerf. So they have nerfed it a little bit in that regard. And then this is interesting though. The flames created on ground from flamethrower significantly increase in duration and damage when more fuel is added to them by firing at the same spot. So yeah, if you just like fire at the same spot, it should increase the duration and damage of those flames. So, you know, if you have like a spitter or a biter like standing there, whatever, you can roast them better. And then this is also kind of a nerf to the flamethrower. They've increased fire resistance of biter bases, which I guess, you know, in my opinion, that's okay, because as it is now, bases just get completely wrecked by the flamethrower. Like, it's not even close. Like, you just shoot like one little spray of flames on, and it just like burns to death in like 5 seconds. So this is totally reasonable in my opinion. They increase the health of player non-combat buildings, so, you know, whatever, assemblers, furnaces, or whatever, they increase the health of that. They actually more than doubled the health of the player, which is interesting. They've increased the effectiveness of raw fish and the amount you get. They have increased damage range and health of biter worms, so that's going to be scary, because, you know, the worms already are a little bit scary, especially the big ones. They've decreased health and resistance of behemoth biters, which I think is fine, because as it stands like right now, I know they're supposed to be difficult and they're the latest biter in the game, as in like the most dangerous, but right now they're just a huge pain to kill. Like, even with the flamethrower, which is like the most powerful hand weapon there is currently, they're still a huge pain to kill. So I'm kind of glad that they're doing that. They doubled the stack of ammo, tweak costs and crafting times ammos, increased damage of player ammos, greatly increased damage and fire rate of rockets and cannon shells, so this should buff the tank and rocket launcher, and increase the collision box of cannon shells, increase tank health and resistances, so that's just a direct tank buff, which is pretty cool. And they also added research for tank cannon shell damage and shooting speed, which is really cool. That is definitely something that will give you a few more things to research and make the tank more viable. Tweak some research. Greatly increased damage of mines. They also stun nearby enemies when they explode, so this is cool. This might make mines more viable. You could do like minefields around your walls or whatever. I think that would be quite interesting. And then this one's actually really pretty big. Biter stop following player after 10 seconds of not giving or receiving damage if the player is more than 50 tiles away. So how it is right now is the biters will, at least as far as I know and in my experience, pretty much infinitely follow you. So even if you have like power armor and tons of legs, if you just outrun them and just get like 10 screens away, they're still going to be pathing to you and following you. Like if you like run and get 10 screens away or whatever, right, and then just stand there, they will eventually come to you. Like they just are locked onto you as it is now. So they've changed this so that if you're 50 tiles away and after 10 seconds, they just stop following you, which I think is really cool. I mean, that might help with performance and just with general gameplay. I think it's a good change. And then other minor changes, you know, they say they're not final. And then the last thing of this part is the turret creep. So they're saying essentially that they still want to try to nerf turret creep kind of, but they can't think of a good way to do it, that there have been suggestions and stuff. And they say here, so ideas include large power-up times, annoying and also weakens base defense, simply not allowing turrets to be built near biter bases makes the player feel cheated, underground anti-turret worms, sugar-coated version of the previous idea. Personally, in one of the last Friday Fact discussion videos I did, someone or a couple people had a good idea, kind of based around this one here. is to have the bases do kind of like they do for the Zerg race in StarCraft, is have some type of like creep or whatever special terrain around the bases that you just can't build on. I still think that's viable. I wouldn't feel cheated. I mean, it kind of makes sense. I would be fine with that, but for now, it looks like they're kind of just settling on the idea of just not nerfing it. They're just saying, in the end, maybe your ingenuity and effort of building all those electric poles should be rewarded. If the player wants to do it that way, why not let him? So I guess for now, they're kind of just settling on not nerfing turret creep. I mean, it is kind of your own decision if you want to use it or not. If you think it's overpowered, then just don't use it. And I think that's okay too. And then lastly, this is the part I'm particularly excited about, is they have wave defense. So they've kind of been thinking about doing some type of tower defense, but it's still kind of hard with the way Factorio works. So what they've done is, what Clonin has worked on here is kind of a wave defense. So essentially the player spawns in one corner of the square map with biters spawning opposite. After some time, the biters will begin spawning for a period and head towards the silo. After this wave, there's a short skippable intermission before the next more powerful wave starts. So it's kind of like tower defense. You spawn down here, and then the biters spawn like up here and stuff, and heads towards the silo. And obviously there's multiple waves, each one getting increasingly stronger. And it says at the start of each wave, the rocket silo ticks up progress by 5%. So after the 20th wave, you can launch the satellite and win. But each wave is more powerful. And each unit killed along the way will reward the team with a bounty, which you can use to purchase any number of upgrades, such as turret damage, shooting speed, and more. So that's really cool. So it is pretty close to turret defense, except that you're not actually building like mazes and stuff for the biters to go through, because I don't know if the biter mechanics allow that as it is now. So I think this is about as close as we can get, and this is still super exciting. I think I would play this quite a lot. I love turret defense, wave-based games and stuff. I used to play a ton of that in Warcraft 3. So this should be pretty interesting. And if, I like the fact that the units killed actually allow you to get stuff, because that's kind of how tower defense works. And they said that the testing of scenario fits quite nicely with the recent combat changes. Of course, they have to play test it quite a lot, but especially in multiplayer. Multiplayer would be super cool, right? Like if you could have just multiple people doing this, I would imagine that'd be so cool. Just like, just be like, all right, you go defend the north wall, I'll handle this east wall, and then be like, oh crap, I need more turrets, go run them up to the other player. I think it'd be really, really cool. And one last thing, you see this here? Looks like we have a new resource. I'm guessing this is some type of uranium or something similar to it for the nuclear power. This is definitely a new resource. This is not a color of a resource we have currently, and it's not a, and they haven't just changed the color of a resource, because you can see we still have stone, copper, iron, and coal. So there's a little teaser of a new resource here, which is pretty awesome. But I think that's going to be it for this one, guys. As always, let me know what you think down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts about any of this, and yeah, I'm super excited about this. I think I'll play the hell out of this. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and found it informative. If you haven't had a chance to read the facts yet, if you did, leave a like. And yeah, again, let me know what you think. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.